Okay. Getting into the news. I've put it off for as long as I possibly can. Let's start with something that's a bit neutral, right? 88% of people want to see a wealth tax as part of a post-pandemic recovery plan. One of the things that I'm really noticing, even from Abacus data, right, is that they are framing this as deficit reduction, right? That the point of raising taxes and the point of doing this kind of stuff is to reduce the deficit. And this is just a grift in and of itself, right? That it requires a massive misunderstanding of what deficits are. It requires a massive, and this massive misunderstanding of what deficits are has been well cultivated in the society. That, and I've talked about it on this channel all the time, right? All a deficit is a measurement of government spending, right? So if you have a deficit of $500 billion, like in an $8 trillion economy, that's not that big a deal. And a $500 billion deficit, well, because it's just a measurement of government spending, that $500 billion is also a surplus, right? So if you changed, anytime you see the word deficit in regards to how the government operates, if you replace the word deficit with surplus, right, the statement is still accurate, right? So this could read how to deal with the surplus, right? So to reduce the surplus, most think that taxes on lower middle income households will rise and programmed services will be cut. Which, like, programs and services will be cut. So you're reducing the surplus, right? Because that's what the government's creating. It's creating services with a surplus that is also measured through a deficit, right? That's how you keep track of these things. But most want to see loopholes closed and taxes increased on the rich and corporations, which almost guarantees that it won't happen, right? Like, since when has the majority of Canadian opinion actually mattered that much? We are talking about, like, super majorities, though. Like, we're talking about a majority, 88%. Like, that's a super majority. Like, that turns this into a non-political issue. That turns this into, like, a non-partisan issue. That it is 100% what the vast majority of Canadians want to see, regardless of their political affiliation. So the fact that it's not going to happen and the fact that it isn't happening should be extremely telling to you. And the fact that we're being told that this is supposed to be about reducing the deficit, i.e. reducing the services that we have access to from the government so that they can be privatized, right? Because that's how you reduce deficits, right? If you wanted to reduce the deficit, a good way to do that would be to cut funding for, let's say, the healthcare system and then privatize that, because those institutions and structures and infrastructure, all of that still exists. Like, it's still there. So, and like a majority of Liberal, Conservative, and NDP supporters rank increasing taxes on large corporations and wealthy people as a top priority when it comes to reducing the federal deficit. So when it comes to privatizing stuff, as it's being framed, so this is a grift that's being perpetrated on us. And then few Canadians think tax increases on large corporations and wealthy people will negatively impact them, right? Because billionaires and these massive corporate entities, they're worthless. Like, they're worthless in our society, that they should be expelled, that we should take them over. But most think program and service cuts and tax increases on lower middle income people will have a negative impact on them. Yeah, putting a boot on the back of your citizens, taxing your actual productive citizens, the people who are actually doing the work, who are actually going and doing stuff, right? Yeah, that's going to be a problem for the society. Taxing worthless billionaires and wealth that's sitting in pools of, nothing, that's not going to change anybody's life. It's not even going to change the life of the people you're taxing, right? If you go up to a billionaire and he has like $10 billion and you say, we're going to take half of that wealth, he's going to cry and squall like it because he's a little baby, but it's not going to matter to him. It's not going to matter to him at all, right? He has $5 billion. Like, he's not going to experience a decline in the quality of his life. The only thing he's crying about is that he didn't get to decide, right? That he doesn't have the power. And because he's so worthless, he doesn't have the power. He never did. Like, that's the thing. But they've even grifted themselves. Most Canadians don't think you can reduce the federal deficit and pay for the pandemic without increasing taxes. Again, this talk about reducing the deficit, so reducing the surplus, right? Like, most Canadians don't think you can reduce the federal surplus, right? Because the government printed money, put it into the society, and the way that you actually balance this out is not by reducing the surplus, or the deficit, if you prefer to frame it that way, is not by reducing the surplus, it's by getting rid of dead weight, right? And you've got billionaires in your society, so get rid of the dead weight. Get rid of the dead weight. Yeah, so, and what Canadians want, don't cut healthcare, education, other important social programs. 92% of Canadians think this way, right? 54 say it's a must-have, right? 88% want to see a wealth tax of 1% by the wealthiest Canadians included in a post-pandemic recovery plan. Reduce healthcare costs, build more affordable housing, don't raise the HST. At the end of the day, right? Like, and these are super majorities. There is a complete consensus in the populace on this. Tax the wealthy, don't cut programs. Real straightforward shit. So if you see anything other than this from a politician, that politician is working for someone other than the populace. Matthias, how you doing, Matthias? Good to see you. Going into fourth wave officially, yet CRB is cut nearly in half. Yep, got to incentivize people to go back to wage slaveries for jobs that aren't there going into another lockdown. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, right? Capitalism only works through coercion. It only works through coercion. Like, isn't that funny? How the narrative coming out of the capitalist class literally is, oh, you created a system that doesn't thrive on coercion, and our coercive system doesn't work anymore, right? That's what they're saying to us. Like, you are providing food and shelter for the citizenry, and so I can't exploit them. Right? And I can't denigrate them, and I can't coerce them, and I can't abuse them any longer. Right? That's literally what they're saying to us. Right? And it's like, oh, we're supposed to participate in this system? Haha, no thanks. No thanks. And again, I've said it before, right? How weak is capitalism? You literally can just erect the most meager support systems, and capitalism suddenly collapses. That means it's weak. That means it's extremely weak. It can't even defend against, like, the most meager reforms. So get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Put in a system that's more resilient. Put in a system that's much more resilient. Yet there are those that actually think the CRB will become a UBI by the end of the year. I mean, it's nice to hope. It is. It's nice to hope. And Matthias, I think you're right on the money. Yeah, I don't see a UBI under the libs. Trudeau said so himself. Yeah, he doesn't see a path. That's the quote. He doesn't see a path to a basic income because, you know, he's not a visionary. He doesn't actually have a vision for Canada. He reads cue cards. That's what he does. He doesn't have thoughts or ideas, right? He doesn't have any of that, right? He just reads from cue cards. He just does what he's told because he's not really the leader of the I think Chrystia Freeland is probably closer to being the leader of the Liberals than Justin Trudeau is. Like, he's just a pretty boy. He's just the guy who's going to get his face on stamps and shit, right? That's it. He doesn't have thoughts or ideas. He doesn't have what is he contributing? What is he genuinely contributing? Tater tots Trudeau and Fibberals. I don't really get the tater tots thing, but I like Fibberals a lot. Tater tots. I do like tater tots Trudeau, though. The alliteration, that's fun. Expecting people to get by on $1,000 a month. Yeah, it's complete evil. Yeah. Like, I mean, and it's what we're already doing to our disabled. Like, we're already doing that to our disabled. Like, disabled people aren't getting the CRB. Disabled people aren't getting any of that. Right? That's why we're standing up in protest. If you want to come out, there's a great protest going on Yonge and Dundas Square this Saturday, 1 p.m. Right? It's a housing protest, right? Because the housing has gotten absurd, and so people are going out to protest. I'm going to be there handing out flyers, trying to get people for the next Saturday. Again, Yonge and Dundas Square, 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. to protest the treatment of the disabled here in Canada. Like, the treatment of the disabled here in Canada is despicable. It's absolutely despicable. Like, we are expecting people with disabilities to survive on like $1,200 a month. Like, that's what we're doing. And it's disgraceful. Like, it's disgraceful what we're doing. And so come out and protest. I'm trying very hard to not blame the electorate, but they seem content with their neighbors having their benefits cut. Aha, Matthias. Matthias. They do not. We have proof. We have proof. And this is why I'm reporting on this stuff is important. And why polling is important. Because this actually, like we have our doubts and our fears of our neighbors, but what our neighbors are saying outright and explicitly, and we can see it, don't cut healthcare, education, or other important social programs. 92% of Canadians are saying this. We don't want cuts on social programs. We don't want it. 92%. We have proof and evidence. So only 8%. What that means, right, is that even the people who are voting conservative, so the people I've been complaining about this whole time, right, the real members of the capitalist death cult, the people who are like, climate change isn't real, whatever, we can just plunge forward into a post-apocalypse and that's completely fine. Most of them are saying, no, but we should have these social services and we shouldn't be cutting any of that. Only 8% of the populace is saying that we should have some kind of cuts, right? So that's the bleakest, darkest, most despicable people who live, like the true fascists of the society. And there's only 8% of them, right? So most people are saying, don't cut these programs. We can do other things. And so that's something I think that gives us courage and gives us strength. That's actually a hopeful message. That while I have been disappointed in the electorate on many ways, and while I think that we have a lot of work to do in regards to educating the electorate, and incidentally, that's about to happen because we're getting into an election season, and that's finally when Canadians go, oh, fine, I'll pay attention for 5 minutes. And I'm going to start making videos to be like, hey, here are your parties and representatives, right? This is the situation you find yourself in. Something clean, hopefully to educate people as quick as possible. But while we're doing that, it's good to remember 92% of Canadians are not interested in cuts. So, yes, Matthias, good. Because at this stage in the game, we need hopeful messages. We need to really grab hold of where are the cracks in the capitalist death cult? Where are the cracks in the capitalist death cult? It's not just doom and gloom. It isn't. That we do ostensibly have allies and there is sanity in the society. And here is an article that really, really indicates that. So, okay, I feel like I beat the shit out of that horse, so hold on. There's no voice for the nation's most vulnerable. Yeah, this is true though, Matthias. There is no voice. Like if it's literally people like me, like it's literally people like me and Isabella Gamp who's actually organizing these protests and who has been like creating POOF, the Protect ODSP OW funding organization. You can find that all on Facebook. Like these are the people who are actually fighting for the most vulnerable. And one of the things that I came to realize is that all of the structures we have to deal with homelessness and poverty and the people who are being shoved out onto the streets, those structures are actually incentivized to continue homelessness because they only get paid if there are homeless people. And if you were to eliminate homelessness, these institutions would cease to exist. And so you have a whole bunch of people who are completely incentivized to maintain the system of homelessness because that's how they get paid, right? So, like, capitalism has literally erected a system to reinforce homelessness even in its compassion towards the homelessness. They've erected institutions that are like, we're here to take care of the homeless and we want to take care of the homeless, but we need them to be homeless or else we don't get paid. And so, like, And so those people really aren't standing up to ameliorate or eliminate homelessness. They're standing up to get more funding for themselves. And so it really is coming down to like the actual disabled, people like Isabella, right? And then people who are willing to stand up and actually fight for them, like myself. And I haven't seen anybody else doing it. Like, and so that's where things are a bit bleak. Like, where are the Canadians of moral conscience? Where are the people? We're not ready for a 401 blockade. We're not ready. We don't have enough people. We need at least 100 people. Like, 100 people who are absolutely going to come, right? If we show up with 10 people, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Even 100, like even 100 is I'm pretty skittish about 100. I would prefer 1,000. And once we're able to get 1,000 people out with regularity, and once we're able to like genuinely, like we know that 1,000 people are coming, then we can start blocking the 401. And there's very little they can do about it. Like, what are they going to do? They're gonna bring their police like vans and start loading people into it. It's 1,000 people. Like and like the 10,000, well, 1 million would be ideal, dude. Like get literally everybody. Like the entire city of Toronto should come out. Because like it's absolutely imperative that we throw ourselves into the gears of this thing. It's absolutely imperative that we do that. And again, like I know most of you don't actually live in Toronto, and so this is where I like to say, you are the organizing force right now, right? Like I talked to lots and lots of people who are standing around, kind of being like, oh, well, where's the movement? When the movement happens, I'll get to it, right? I'll grab onto the movement as it kind of comes by, right? No, that's not how this works, right? You are the movement. The fact that you are in this chat, the fact that you are having these conversations with me, tells me that you are the leader. You are the leader, right? You are the one that needs to make the flyer. You are the one that needs to set the date. You are the one that needs to knock on doors. You are the one that needs to go to the churches. You are the one that needs to do these things, because no one else around you is doing it, right? That's why you've never seen the movement. It's never happened. You are the movement. You are the leader. You are the one that needs to find or create the flyer. You are the one that needs to print it out, and you are the one that needs to hand it out. No one else is doing it. It's you.